All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, January 27th, and we got a jam-packed NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. We'll talk about it. I'll give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any player props we like within the game. But as always, all of my final plays, so what I'm actually rolling with myself, those plays are going to be in the pinned comment. So make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment of this video. Last night, we go 2-2. It's a bummer. Our 2 wins were half unit plays, so relatively, or I mean, honestly speaking, I guess, it's more like a 1-2 night. Suns minus 2.5. That game comes down to the wire, does not come through for us. And then Grayson Allen, the percentage was there, right? He shoots 2 of 3 from the line. If you watch back yesterday's video when I talked about Grayson Allen, it was because of the percentage that he had been shooting from deep and the quantity. The quantity just was not there. So, nonetheless, 2-2 night. That brings that hot streak not necessarily to a halt. We'll try and get back on, the hot streak today. But in terms of winning day, brings it to a halt. But nonetheless, guys, hope to bounce back tonight. The bad news, it doesn't stop there. We got to drop the womp womp because our ride of the day does not come through. From Nicholas here, had Giannis over 6.5 first quarter points. Nicholas had given us 2 in a row. I think he had hit a bunch more in the comments even prior to being the shouted out ride of the day, but his journey stops here. So shout out to Nicholas for the run. Again, a couple in a row here. This was his 3rd attempt. Does not come through. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I'm picking one person's play, jumping on board with it, and giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we celebrate. If you lose, you gotta face the womp womp from the soundboard. But if you do win, we continue to ride with you and jump on your picks until you do lose. So make sure to go ahead and use that hashtag ride of the day. Give an absolute banger of a pick. Make sure to follow me on Twitter /X at EvGuyBoston because we're also shouting out the ride of the day over there. But enough rambling here, enough yapping. Let's get into some more yapping and some more rambling, but about today's slate. We're starting it off with a game that, yeah, it's a bad game, but I actually do have a pretty decent chance of having a final play in this game. We've got Detroit taking on the Wizards here. Right now, Detroit's sitting at home as 2.5-point favorites, total sitting at 241. These two teams played about just a little over 10 days ago here, and Detroit won 129-117. And they played earlier in the year, and Washington won 126-107. Now, neither one of these teams has any sort of track record or any trend that you'd really like to follow or kind of look at it from that perspective, right? But what I will say is that this is a spot in which I like Washington plus the points. Like I think Washington almost should be favored in this game, which is absolutely crazy to say. But yeah, I'm not trusting Detroit to win 2 games in a row or cover any sort of spread when they're favored. So give me Washington plus the 2.5 points. I know it's crazy betting on these teams in the first place, right? But this actually does have a chance of being a final play. So keep an eye on that pin comment. I think that it's just going to come down to the point where, Detroit's defense, and not that Washington has a great defense, but, there's just nothing that they can do to stop sort of, as funny as it is to say, Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. Like, I think that they end up having decent games tonight. I know, kind of crazy to say. In terms of a total 241, it does seem like it's a high number, but when you look at it from a pace perspective, Washington over the last 10 games, #1 pace team in the entire NBA. Detroit number 8. So there should be a lot of run up and down on the court here. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the over here. Now, again, it's crazy to even have some opinions on this game. Maybe we stay away from making this a final play just because, you can get burned in this spot, right? But again, both of those spots I really don't mind, which maybe it's the early morning kicking in and I'm just crazy, right? But nonetheless, Washington minus the points and the over. No real player props to jump off the page in here unless we can get some good lines for some of those Washington offensive players because, again, I think that there could be some easy buckets today. All right, next up, we have the Knicks taking on the Heat here. Knicks at home, 4.5-point favorites. In terms of how they've been playing some good basketball, right? Coming off of a dominant win against one of the best teams in the league in Denver. Though Denver on the road, you know what I mean? It's a little bit different, but Knicks beat them 122-84. And then you look at Miami. This is a team that is struggling. Now, they've played some good teams, but they've also lost some bad teams, right? Like Memphis beating them 105-96. They've lost 5 straight games. On the year, this Miami team, 19-25-1 against the spread. When they are on the road, they are 11-11-1 against the spread. So really not a spectacular road team in Miami. Not that we'd expect them to be, but going up against the Knicks team, this Knicks team, again, playing really good basketball. And I like the spot for them again here at home, minus the 4.5 points. If this was like 6.5 or 7, maybe we'd start considering Miami, because again, these two teams, I feel like they always play each other tough. This year they had one game, it finished 100-98. Knicks took the dub, but just the way that these two teams are traveling, right? One's looking really good, one does not look. One looks like they're on thin ice right now. So give me the Knicks minus the 4.5 points. Total sitting at 217.5 makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? Miami second slowest team in the last 10 games in terms of pace. The Knicks the 5th slowest, or actually the 4th slowest. So really not expecting a lot of points here. I will say that 217.5 is very low for how the Knicks offense has been playing. They've been putting up numbers. The only game, I think, in the last 3 games, or yeah, 2 of the last 3 games, they scored 120 plus, but they just have been killing their opponents when it comes to defense. In their last 5 games here, the Knicks defense averaging 98 points allowed per game. That is absolutely crazy. And the Heat in their last 5 offensively only averaging 99. So it's like, what a perfect spot for the Knicks defense to dominate. AKA, we're going to lean towards the under here. So give me the Knicks and the under. A player prop that I don't mind, looking at Dante DiVincenzo, over 2.5 3-pointers made. The dude shoots 60+% from the corner, and that's really where Miami struggles when it comes to 3-pointers allowed. Above the break threes, so you know how the NBA has 2 straight lines and then the arc, they actually cover that fairly well, but from the corner, really one of the worst teams in the league, especially the left corner, which, again, Dante DiVincenzo likes shooting corner 3, so over 2.5 3-pointers made, don't mind there. I also don't hate looking at Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson's 3-pointers made either, because again, they like the corner 3, not necessarily loving the fact that neither one of these guys is going to always shoot with the most best percentages, but again, I think that could be the kind of player prop spot to target in this game. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, what about mid-range and all that, and like even in the paint, Miami at the rim they're good defensively. In the paint they're not all that great, but I think that the Knicks can take advantage from the outside this game. All right, guys, before we get into the Sixers and the Nuggets game, I got to talk to you about Sleeper, because they have a Jokic promotion for this game. For new users, they have knocked his points line from 22.5 down to 0.5 points. If you are not on Sleeper, you are absolutely missing out. Use the link in the pinned comment. You get your first deposit completely matched, absolute no-brainer, and you get this Jokic square for new users. Again, that link is in the pinned comment. If you have not tried out Sleeper yet, now is the time to do so. What I love about Sleeper is that, they're pretty unique in the sense that each and every pick that you put into your slip has its own unique multiplier. They don't follow the fixed payout structure like all of the other apps out there. So go ahead and check it out, guys. Again, link in the pinned comment. You get your deposit matched, and you get the Joker for 0.5 points tonight. Go check it out. All right, let's go ahead and get back to the games here. We're looking at a good one here. Denver taking on the Sixers. Again, one of the better games, maybe the best game on today's slate here. Right now, Denver sitting at 5.5-point favorites at home. Again, Denver at home, a lot different than they are on the road. The total sitting at 228 in this one. I want to start with the total here, because I do think that this game ultimately goes under, which I don't know if I have the cojones to pull the trigger on that, because we know that both these teams obviously can score the ball. They have such talent just overall, right? So maybe we don't pull the trigger on that, because it is kind of a sketchy, scary pick. But in terms of what we've been looking at from Philadelphia, they've been scoring a bunch of points, right? The defense has been pretty good and bad at the same time, if you want to spin it like that. So really nothing to go from there, and it's also kind of like a toss-up. Like I said, they've been scoring a bunch of points sometimes, and then they don't the other times. Now, Denver, and I'll get to why this is an under pick after talking about them scoring a lot of points. Denver kind of on the same page here. They're scoring, they'll give you your 115 in their last 5 games here from a points per game perspective. They're allowing, actually, pretty good, I guess, allowing 112, which is just below league average. And then in terms of their offense in their last 5 games here, they've been scoring 107, which is, again, sort of just below league average. So why do I like the under? It really is going to come down to the fact that I think that these are two teams that are going to really be, I guess, picky and sort of cautious about what and how and when they shoot the ball. I think that both these teams, obviously teams that, they do have strong field goal percentages over the entire year, and I do think that, that's sort of the way that they win this game. It's not going to be by outrunning either team. Like, both these teams can play fast and slow it down, but when it comes down to it and push comes to shove, I think they're going to really be considerate of the shots they're taking in the paint and everything like that. So I like this one to go under. Again, do I have the balls to pull it off? Maybe not. It's a tough one to take an under for teams like this and a big game like this, but maybe it has some playoff energy or championship energy, and defense and sort of shot pickiness is a big thing. So I get it if you don't want to consider that, because it is tough to take an under with especially the Sixers. Now, from a spread perspective, this one's a tough one because it's like, yeah, Denver's at home and I like it. 5.5 points though is a lot to give a Sixers team that has, prior to their loss against Indiana, which almost we kind of predicted, right? They had won 6 straight games. So it's like, they're playing good basketball, and including the game against Denver in which they were at home, but they beat Denver 126 to 121. So this one has me kind of on the fence. I'm ultimately going to lean towards the Sixers plus the points because it is just a little bit too much to lay, okay? But if you're on Denver side, minus 5.5, it's not something that I can really tip my nose at. I understand exactly why. You're going to want to keep an eye on the injury report because everybody on both teams is on the injury report here. They're all listed as probable, Embiid, Harris, Murray, Jokic. Like, a lot of guys are listed as probable in the injury report. But if all of a sudden we get shafted and Embiid doesn't play and Jokic doesn't play, it's like, what are we doing here, right? But nonetheless, guys, give me the Sixers plus the points. Total, I like the under. And then from a player prop perspective, I actually don't mind a same game parlay in this spot. We might do a separate shorts video on this, but as of right now, I'm thinking Embiid, 25 plus points, Jokic 20 plus points, and then both of them 10 plus rebounds. And I think that's like plus 120 on DraftKings right now, which seems super doable. And I like the spot here. Again, they played just less than a month ago, and it was a good game, a lot of points scored, everything like that. So I do think that we have a chance to see something similar. And we saw, I think it was like 19 rebounds from Jokic, 25 points, right? And Embiid had 41, 7 rebounds, but he'll probably get more rebounds in this game. So I like that same game parlay as well. I feel like I just ranted and raved about that game in like so many confusing ways, but it is what it is. Next up, we have Brooklyn taking on the Rockets here. This line kind of not caught me off guard, but kind of surprised me because, again, this is a Brooklyn team that is just god-awful against the spread. They started the year so hot, and now they're terrible. Going up against Houston, who they've been pretty bad as well, but I do think that they're substantially better than Brooklyn. But they're on the road. And what have I said about the Rockets, lately, but also just in videos overall, like way different road team than they are home team. This season, they're 5-15 straight up on the road. The spread against the spread is a little bit better, 8-12, but still a negative team against the spread. Brooklyn, however, at home, 13-7-2. They have a losing straight up record, but 13-7-2 against the spread here. So I'm going to trust the books in this one. I'm going to lay the 4.5 points with Brooklyn. They do have a fairly decent injury to talk about here. Cam Johnson is out this game, but Jabari Smith Jr. might not get the go for the Rockets either. And this is a Rockets team that, coming off of a win yesterday, it was kind of a blowout, so I don't want to really force the back-to-back, but they are in a back-to-back as well. So I think it's a good spot for Brooklyn. They're at home, and, both these teams kind of in the dumps right now, so I'll trust the home team in this spot. Now, the total sitting at 220. Talk about one that I went back and forth on, but I'm going to lean towards the over. Now, I have to trust the fact that Brooklyn's offense maybe looks a little bit better than it has, which is crazy to say out loud because what am I going off of there? Well, it's more or less the spots in which, they play well. In the paint, Houston, at the restricted area, Houston's a very good defensive team. In the paint, not so much. So if Brooklyn get into the paint, I like their chances there. And then from mid-range, Brooklyn doesn't take a lot of them. They're kind of middle of the pack there, but Houston really struggles to cover that. And then the corner three, especially the left corner three, I think this could be a spot in which, if they get into the paint, they do collapse. They can kick out, and some guys can make threes for Brooklyn, whereas I don't see that happening for Houston. Really, really not a good three-shooting team this season. So kind of just like the game script that I'm predicting, I guess, in a sense. But nonetheless, yeah, give me Brooklyn here. I think this one goes up and over the number 2 just because you can't really trust Houston's defense on the road. And their defense overall really hasn't looked all that great, right? Like, this has been a better Brooklyn defense in the last, 3 games or 5 game sample size than Houston, which is absolutely crazy. And they're on a back-to-back. Maybe the tired legs, allow some more points. So give me the over, over 220, and then Brooklyn minus the points. A player prop that I really don't mind. I'm going to be taking a peek at Dorian Finney-Smith's under 16.5 PRA. So the reason this is most likely a little inflated is going to be because of Cameron Johnson being out. And you look at this and say every single game that Cam Johnson has been out, except for one and actually finished on the hook, Dorian Finney-Smith has gone over. So I understand why someone might like the over, but in terms of the defense here and what Dorian Finney-Smith does, I don't think that it's a great matchup for him against Houston. So kind of an against the grain pick because the logical brain would be like, well, Cam Johnson's out. He'll probably get more opportunity and more minutes and everything, right? but I just don't see the matchup working out. So whether or not we pull the trigger on that, like I've said a couple times in today's video, keep an eye on the pinned comment. We shall see. But yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith, I think that number is just a little bit too high for him. So I'll take the under in that. Celtics taking on the Clippers. I know I said the Denver and Philly was probably the best game, but this should be a damn good game as well. However, Kristaps Porzingis is on the injury report, and he's listed as doubtful. So if he does not go, that's going to be a damn big hit for the Celtics, right? So we'll keep an eye on that injury report. I do lean, and the Celtics are my team, right? They are at home. It's a good spot for them, I do think. But without Porzingis, and I don't think he's going to play. He left last game with a ankle injury, a ankle sprain too, right? So he's probably not going to play. I think I lean towards the Clips in this spot, plus the 7.5 points. Now, if you know me well enough and you've been watching me long enough, I'm not going to pull the trigger on that. Even if I lean that way, I can't bet against my favorite team, my favorite sports team out of all sports too, right? But kind of telling you, I guess, why I would if I could do that, right? If I wasn't superstitious enough. But anyways, Clippers have won 8 of their last 10 here. They've covered in 7 of their last 10 against decent teams too. Like they beat up on OKC, Phoenix, kind of when Phoenix was going through their good stretch. New Orleans, they beat really well too. And these are games that are either on the road or at home. Like lately, it really has not mattered to them. On the season, it's mattered a little bit. They're only a 10-10 record in terms of straight up and against a spread team. But yeah, I just like them getting a lot of points here. Now, again, on the East Coast, it makes it a little bit different. I can understand why someone likes the Celtics. As a Celtics fan, they're damn good, but no Porzingis makes it a little bit worrisome to me. Now, from a total perspective, 232.5 seems a little bit too high for me if I do predict that the Clippers are going to kind of control this game and potentially make a game of it, right? They're the 5th slowest team in the last 10 games here. And the Celtics, who do put up a lot of points and are one of the more efficient teams in the NBA, they don't play, and they haven't, I guess, in the last 10 games with crazy pace. Middle of the pack, ranked 16th, so bottom half of the league, just barely in terms of pace. So give me the under in this spot as well. Now, two, I guess, contradicting things that I'm going to now give you for player props. I do think that there's going to be a lot of sort of pull up above the break threes in this game from the Celtics side of things, because it's really the only one spot you could maybe nitpick of the Clippers defense. Like they're good in the paint, good at the rim, good from the corners, good from mid-range defensively. Above the break three, this is a Celtics team that is a really good shooting team from above the break, and the Clippers kind of struggle to defend it. So who do I look at here? 2 guys that I think capitalize without Kristaps Porzingis in the lineup. Both of them over 2.5 3-pointers made, Derek White and Jaylen Brown. Now, Derek White hit this season, as did Jaylen Brown, without Kristaps Porzingis against this team. They both had 3 threes in that game. And Jaylen Brown, with no Porzingis, he shoots about 7 to 8 threes per game. With Porzingis, he shoots 5, so he does get a couple more chances. Same thing with Derek White. So I think that it's a good matchup, a good sort of defensive weakness that we can exploit here, hopefully. And they can knock down some threes. So again, good odds here, minus 110 for Derek White's over 2.5, and then Jaylen Brown's is plus 145. So yeah, we could see both of those in the final play, because I do think at least one of them hits, and I'd love it to be Brown, because that would cover, if Derek White doesn't hit, just based on the odds. Charlotte hosting Utah here. Charlotte coming off of a stomping last night. They're on a back-to-back. They lose 138 to 104. We just talked about that with the Rockets game. Utah coming off of a win, kind of like a much-needed win, because they started to go downhill rather quickly there. They beat Washington 123 to 108. They do have, I think, a good spot here against Charlotte. We kind of saw them, a road game against a bad team, aka Washington. They kind of took care of business. They were 7.5-point favorites in that game. They win it by, obviously a bunch, 15. So I do think that this is another spot for them. The spread probably puts it out of final play range for me, to be completely honest. But I'll lean towards the Jazz in this spot. In terms of a total here, 235. I mean, if Utah's going to come to play, they're going to score a lot of points, because that Charlotte defense is terrible, right? We just saw, like I said, Houston go ahead and somehow put up that many points. Like, that's not Houston's ball game, yet Houston dropped 138 on them. So I think I'm going to lean towards the over here. I just hope that Charlotte kind of comes with a little bit more offensive gusto than they did last night. So we shall see on that one. I guess one thing to look at too, no rest situations for Charlotte here. It's not the best look. They are just 3-3 for over-under, so maybe not. You know, it's something that makes its way into a final play. It's kind of a weird game overall, but yeah, we'll take a peek at the over there. Now, a player prop that I don't mind, I'm looking at Colin Sexton over 4.5 assists here. He's hit it in 8 of his last 10. He's hit it in 7 straight games. The one caveat and footnote that I want to add here is that he has been landing on 5, like you read about. Of those 7 straight that he's hit, 4 of those landed on 5, so he just barely hit it. But it's still green when you're looking at it from a good or bad perspective. So I like his chance. The usage is there enough for me to kind of get behind it. So I don't mind him in that spot. I also don't mind looking at John Collins if you can get good odds on it. Over 0.5 assists. Again, like the dude, we've cashed it. He's hit this and I believe it's like, I almost want to say it's like 13 straight games or something. Just 1 assist is all we need, right? And Charlotte allows plenty of assists overall. So, yeah, I think the odds are probably going to be juiced. I don't have odds for that as of right now. We got it, earlier in the week at minus 165 or minus 155. So, it's probably going to be severely juiced here. But a couple Utah Jazz player props that I don't mind in that spot. All right, we got Milwaukee taking on the Pelicans here. Milwaukee coming off of a loss last night. Cavs got them back for the win that they had 2 nights before. They lose 112 to 100. And you're probably thinking, oh, Milwaukee on a back-to-back. So are the Pelicans. Pelicans kind of got their ass whooped too by the OKC Thunder, the one game that we kind of had a good read on last night in terms of final plays. So both these teams on back-to-backs here. So do we want to give weight to the back-to-back for either side? Yeah, I think I do, because Milwaukee on back-to-backs this year, nothing to really be impressed with, 3-3, whereas the Pelicans have actually played pretty well, 4-2 against the spread in back-to-back situations. That being said, I don't think 5 points is enough here. So this Pelicans team I like, and I do think that they are a good team, both on the road and at home. Zion's questionable. That could be a big ding for them. And I think that maybe Milwaukee bounces back after a loss last night. New coach, everything like that. So, yeah, it's not my favorite spot because I could totally see the Pelicans playing some good defense and kind of locking down Milwaukee. But on that same thing, if you flip the coin, I could see, Milwaukee kind of just being like, yeah, we're just going to really play fast, and the Pelicans aren't going to keep up with us. And that is a fair discrepancy between these two teams. Pelicans, bottom 10 team in terms of pace. Milwaukee, top 5 team in terms of pace in the last 10 games here. So which game are you going to get? Not exactly sure. That might be what ends up making us stay away from it, because I could see both teams excelling in what they do best. But for, intents and purposes here on this show, I'm going to lean towards Milwaukee minus the points. The total sitting at 241. I'm probably not going to touch, but if I like Milwaukee minus the points, I think that they end up running and gunning and putting up a decent amount of points. A player prop in this spot I love is CJ McCollum over 2.5 3-pointers made. I think this is a great spot against Milwaukee here. He hit 6 last season against Milwaukee. And he's hit the over here in 68% of games this season. So I really do like CJ McCollum to have the volume as well as the percentage here. So on the year, he's shooting 43% from beyond the arc, making 43% of his 8 attempts. Everything checks out. And again, last time he played in Milwaukee, he had 6 threes made, doubled up this line. So give me him over 2.5 3-pointers made. A lot of 3-point props that we're throwing your way in today's video as I get towards the end of the slate here, huh? So kind of on that note, if you guys made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 3-pointer in the chat and in the comments, guys. Let me know that you made it this far into the video. But yeah, no serial. That was awesome reading all your, there were some serials that I hadn't even heard of yesterday in the video, but all you got to do is let me know that you've made it this far in the video by commenting 3-pointer in the comments. But let's go ahead and get to the next game here. Spurs, huge dogs here against Minnesota. Not necessarily a game that I think I'm going to touch, but give me Minnesota minus the points here. This is a Spurs team that, yes, they've been covering a lot of games and everything like that, but they're in a back-to-back situation here. Minnesota's rested, and I really don't love the spot for them, San Antonio overall. So I don't think I touch it, but Minnesota minus 11 points. I don't hate that overall. Total sitting at 227. This is a spot in which, it's right in that number of like, yeah, is that a high number? Is it a low number, right? Like 227 seems like a fairly sharp number for this game. I'm going to lean towards the under, but again, this game overall, you could probably sense in my voice, right? Not my favorite spot, not something that I envision myself racing to the counter to play some bets on. No player props really that I love in this spot either, so keep an eye on the pinned comment, but I don't think anything really comes from this game. All right, Golden State taking on the Lakers here. Golden State favored in this one, and I'm on the underdog side. I'm looking at the Lakers plus the points, maybe a little bit of a money line action as well. I haven't been able to trust Golden State in a while here. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. Definitely games that they should be winning too. Plenty of drops on the season. Lakers, not to say they've looked good, but the offense has actually kind of kicked into gear a little bit, and they love scoring points at the rim, right? Which is something that Golden State really struggles with, and kind of vice versa, same exact situation. So I do think that both these teams are going to be able to score points. Spoiler alert, we're also leaning towards the over ever so slightly, but I like the Lakers to score more points than Golden State today, aka pretty much win the game. So I might consider them on the money line here as well. Player props in this spot, LeBron's over in points, I think, has really good value today. Over 24.5 here for some decent odds at plus 100. I guarantee that's going to move because this line, it really should be more like 25.5, which is going to make a big difference here. But nonetheless, I like his over 24.5 points. He's done that in 3 straight games, playoffs last year against the Warriors. Yet to do it. Obviously, they haven't played. He hasn't played against them this season. But I just talked about points in the paint, right? LeBron James leads that team in points in the paint, or at least field goal attempts in the paint, and at the restricted area. So I like that spot. And then, like I said, Warriors and Lakers both struggle at defending that spot and are good at scoring there. And wouldn't you know it, the guy that takes the most amount of shots in the restricted area for the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, and he shoots over 80% from the field down there. So I like his over in points as well. As long as he gets that steady minute assortment, I like his spot. He's hit this in 5 straight games. Over that 5 games, he's gone for 24, 28, 20, 25, and 31 last game. So I think it could be a good spot for him as long as he takes, that 15, maybe 12 to 16 sort of range of shots. A lot of those are going to come at the restricted area, a spot in which the Lakers kind of cease to stop guys. Dallas is taking on Sacramento. I think this is going to be a good game as well. So we do have a handful of good games on today's slate. Obviously, we have the Wizards and Detroit, and then Minnesota Spurs, like those types of games mixed in too. But I like Dallas in this spot. They're catching 3.5 now. Now, Kyrie Irving's questionable. As long as Luka's good to go, I don't mind this matchup for Dallas taking on Sacramento. They are coming off of a win, a pretty good win over Atlanta, 148-143. Sacramento, 2 straight wins. They also beat Atlanta, and they beat Golden State. So giving both these teams their flowers. I just think it's a revenge spot. Last time they played mid-November here, Sacramento beat them by, I think it was like 16 points or something like that. Kind of turned up on Dallas. I think this Dallas team, at home, I like their chances. I like their spot. So I'll take them. But if you are on Sacramento, I'm not here to talk you off it, to be completely honest. It's a decent spot, I would say, for both teams. So yeah, I'm not here to talk you off of it. In terms of player props, I'll get to the total in a second. I don't mind taking a peek at Luka to some degree. We don't have any player props out for him right now. In fact, the only one that I'm seeing for him is his rebounds line, which that's weird. So I'm sure in the minute I stop recording, we'll get some lines, but I don't mind his spot or his matchup from multiple perspectives here. I don't mind his 3-pointers made. Again, another 3-pointer stat we're throwing at you. And then his rebound plus assist line, I really don't mind against the Sacramento team either. Struggling in both those categories, 2 opposing point guards. The one caveat, and again, a little cliff note, is that his rebounds plus assist line is 18.5. Like, how much higher can you get, right? So it makes it tough to pull the trigger there. But yeah, I think the 3-pointers made rebounds plus is probably what I look at for Luka in this spot. Now, the total 243.5. Both these teams have been playing with some moderate pace. The efficiency has been there and it hasn't been there kind of inconsistently for both teams all year long. But I think you got to look at the over here. If I think Dallas is gonna, potentially win this game or stay within this game, they're gonna look to score, right? They're not gonna rest their hat on their defense or anything like that. So I'll lean towards the over because we know both these teams can score the ball and play with good pace. So give me over 243.5. But guys, it's gonna wrap it up for today's show. If you guys did enjoy, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I can say thank you at the end of every single video, but it's crazy. Every single video we have something to be thankful for. So appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.